Shaquille O'Neal opened his college acceptance letter with tears in his eyes, then found out his future had already been stolen. It was the moment he'd been waiting for. Shaq sat on the front steps, envelope trembling in his hands. LSU. The dream, the scholarship, the beginning of something real. He tore it open, read the words 3 times. He was in. He ran inside, grinning, holding the letter high like a trophy. Mom, Dad, I got in. His mother looked up from the sink. His father paused at the TV. They smiled, but not the way he expected. That's wonderful, baby, his mom said too softly. Shaq noticed something in their faces. Not joy, not relief, nervousness. He asked the question carefully. So, when do we go to the bank? I need to pay the deposit. They hesitated. His father cleared his throat. About that? His mom stepped forward. Shaquille, the fund's not there anymore. He blinked. What? It was needed, she said. Your sister. We thought she'd need it first. Shaq stood still. I got in, he whispered. I did everything right. You're strong, his father said. You'll figure it out. But in that moment, something broke inside him. Not just trust. Direction. Because now, he had a dream, and no way to reach it. Shaq sat on the edge of his bed, the acceptance letter still in his hand, now crumpled at the corners. His backpack lay open, filled with notebooks, SAT prep guides, and a half-finished scholarship essay he didn't need anymore. Down the hall, he could hear his sister laughing on the phone, carefree, unaware. She was just 16, still in high school, still years away from college. The fund had been for him. Every summer job, every coach's connection, every weekend he spent skipping parties to work out. It had been leading here. He walked into the living room, voice steady but cold. You used my fund for her? His mother folded laundry, not meeting his eyes. She was struggling. We thought she'd drop out. We were scared. You didn't even ask me, he said. His father looked up. Because we knew you'd say no. Shaq clenched his jaw. That money was mine. It had my name on it. You're strong, son. You've got talent. You'll land on your feet. Shaq didn't answer. He turned back toward his room. You don't understand, he said. I didn't want to land. I wanted to fly. And now, everything he worked for had been given to someone else, without a word, without a choice. Shaq stared at the ceiling that night, headphones on but no music playing. The room felt tighter somehow, walls closing in around dreams that didn't fit anymore. He had no backup plan. Everyone assumed he did. Teachers, coaches, even his parents. He was the big guy with the big talent. He'd figure it out. He always did. But LSU wasn't a hobby. It was the plan. The only plan. And now it was slipping away because the people who were supposed to believe in him didn't even wait to ask. His sister knocked lightly on the door. You okay? He didn't answer. She opened it anyway, holding a bowl of cereal. You want some? He shook his head. She sat beside him anyway. I heard you got in, she said. Yeah, he muttered. That's huge. I'm proud of you. He looked over. Her smile was genuine. She didn't know. She didn't take anything. She was just a kid trying to survive like he was. You're gonna go, right? She asked. Shaq didn't know how to answer, so he just nodded. But deep down, he knew the truth. You can't run a race if someone moves the starting line without telling you. And right now, he was already 10 steps behind. The next morning, the house was buzzing like nothing had happened. His mom made pancakes. His dad hummed sports radio updates. His sister sat at the table, scrolling through her phone. The world kept spinning, like Shaq's future hadn't just been pulled out from under him. He didn't eat. Your coach called, his mom said casually. He wants to talk about next steps. Shaq looked up. Next steps for what? She blinked. For how we get you into college, of course. Maybe community college. Something closer to home. Cheaper. His jaw clenched. I got into LSU, he said. You don't downshift from that. His father chimed in, not looking up from the paper. College isn't about status, son. It's about getting a degree. Doesn't matter where. Shaq stood slowly. It matters to me. His mom reached for his arm. You've always been gifted. You'll still make it. You just need to adjust. Everyone had a plan for him, except the one he built himself. I'm not going to settle, he said, voice low but steady. They didn't argue. They didn't fight. They just watched him walk out the door. And as he stepped into the street, Shaq realized something. If they didn't believe in his dream, he'd have to believe in it twice as hard. Shaq walked straight to the one place that had never lied to him, the gym. It was empty at this hour, just the echo of his footsteps and the soft hum of the vending machine. He laced up his worn sneakers, pulled on a hoodie, and started shooting. Free throws, layups, fadeaways. Sweat poured, muscles burned, but none of it hurt like the look on his parents' faces when they said she needed it more. His coach found him there an hour later. Shaq? He didn't stop dribbling. Coach stepped closer. You didn't call me back. I figured it didn't matter. Why? Shaq finally stopped. Because I can't afford it. Not anymore. Coach looked at him for a long moment. Then he handed over his phone. Take it. Shaq frowned. What is this? Someone who wants to talk to you about scholarships. I already lost mine. Coach smiled. You didn't lose anything. They just handed you a detour. Shaq stared at the phone. It wasn't LSU. But it was hope. And when he lifted it to his ear, he wasn't the same boy who'd walked into the gym. He was something new, something dangerous, a dreamer with nothing left to lose, and everything still worth chasing. 3 days later, his sister found the letter. It was tucked behind his dresser mirror, the LSU envelope, wrinkled but not forgotten. She pulled it out, read it slowly, and then walked to his room. You got in, she said. Shaq didn't look up. Yeah, and you didn't tell me. I didn't want to make you feel bad. She sat down on the floor across from him, letter still in hand. Did they use your fund for me? Silence. I asked Mom about the college money last week, she continued. She said there wasn't any, that we were broke. Shaq finally looked at her. You weren't supposed to know. I think I was, she whispered. I think we both were. He leaned back against the wall, arms folded. It's not your fault. She shook her head. But it's not fair either. They sat in silence for a while. 2 siblings, both cheated, both pretending to be okay for each other's sake. She reached out and placed the letter on his lap. You're going, one way or another. Shaq nodded, not because he believed it yet, but because she did. And maybe that was enough for now, because sometimes belief doesn't start inside you. Sometimes it starts in the only person who never stopped seeing your worth. That night, Shaq stayed up drawing plays, not for basketball, but for his life. He pulled out notebooks, receipts, old contact numbers, scribbled ideas in the margins, highlighted schools he hadn't considered before, out-of-state programs, smaller schools with strong athletic departments, coaches who'd shown interest months ago. Every plan his parents had erased, he redrew in thicker ink. In the corner of one page, he wrote a single line and circled it twice. No one's coming. Go anyway. He applied to a state school with a smaller name but a coach who had once told him, You've got something we can't teach. He didn't tell anyone, not even his sister. At breakfast, his parents talked about bills and weather, as if they hadn't turned his future into a family expense. He nodded politely, ate quietly, and planned. He started training harder, earlier, longer. When people asked why he was pushing so much, he just smiled. You'll see. And behind every sprint, every rep, every sleepless night was one unshakable truth. They stole what he earned. But they couldn't steal who he was becoming. Because some people are built by opportunity, and others, like Shaquille O'Neal, are built by what they survive. It came in a plain white envelope. No golden crest, no fanfare. Just a return address from a college Shaq had barely remembered applying to. But he had. In the middle of the night, with a quiet prayer and a trembling hand, He opened it alone in the driveway, sitting on the hood of a neighbor's car under a flickering streetlight. He read the sentence 5 times. A laugh broke out of him, short, sharp, and almost bitter. Not because he didn't want it, but because he'd made it happen without them, without their signatures, without their savings, without their belief. Inside the house, his sister watched through the blinds, smiling wide. She didn't say anything, just pressed her hands to the window and whispered, "Yes." Shaq walked inside, holding the letter like a secret weapon. His parents looked up. His mother opened her mouth to speak, but he cut in. "I got a new offer. Full ride. I'm leaving in 2 weeks." Silence. Then his father asked, "What about us? What about your responsibility here?" Shaq met his gaze without blinking. "My responsibility was to myself. You just didn't see it." And this time they had no answer. There was no cake, no decorations, no speech in the living room, no neighbors dropping by with hugs and advice like they did for his sister's sweet 16. Just a packed duffel bag, a bus ticket, and a silent house. Shaq zipped up his hoodie and walked down the hallway one last time. His fingers brushed against the wall where his growth had been marked in pencil, year after year, inch by inch. His sister met him by the door, eyes glassy but proud. "You did this," she whispered. He smiled. "So did you." She handed him a small note folded 4 times. "Don't read it till you're on the road." He nodded and stepped outside. His mother stood by the window but didn't wave. His father didn't come out of the kitchen. Shaq didn't expect them to. He walked to the corner where the bus waited under gray clouds, and as he climbed on, he felt it. Not sadness, not anger, release. He didn't owe them this journey, but he had earned every step of it. And as the engine rumbled to life, Shaq pulled the note from his sister from his pocket. Inside, in her handwriting, it read, "Make a name so big, they'll have to say they were wrong." He smiled. Challenge accepted. The campus wasn't flashy. No towering stadium, no cheering crowds on arrival, just cracked sidewalks, quiet dorms, and a gym that smelled like old socks and determination. But to Shaq, it was everything. He moved into a room the size of his childhood closet. 1 bed, 1 window, no distractions. Every morning started with sprints. Every night ended with shooting drills in a half-lit gym. No fans, no praise, just echoes. He made a name for himself the only way he knew how, by earning it. At first, the other players underestimated him. He was big, sure, but raw, quiet, focused. Then the games started, and they saw what couldn't be ignored. A storm with feet. Coaches started calling, scouts started showing up. Broadcasters mispronounced his name on small-town stations. But none of it mattered, because Shaq wasn't playing for fame. He was playing for that kid back home who got told you'll figure it out, and for his sister, who believed when no one else did. One night after practice, he sat on the locker room bench staring at a text from his dad that simply read, "Proud of you." Shaq deleted it, not out of anger, but because pride doesn't come in messages. It comes in silence you fight your way through. And he was almost out. It was a rainy afternoon when Shaq's phone rang. Shaq was in the library, forehead resting against his fist, a highlighter dried out in his hand. His phone buzzed beside the textbook. It was her. He answered. "Yo." "Hey," she said, voice quiet. "Can you talk?" "Always." A breath on the other end. "They've been acting different lately." Shaq sat up. "What do you mean?" "Like, suddenly they care how my classes are going. Ask if I need help with books. Even cooked dinner last night and didn't say a word about my grades." Shaq didn't answer right away. "They're not saying anything about what happened," she added. "About you, about the money." He nodded slowly. "They won't." "I don't get it," she said. "They act like nothing happened. Like you just disappeared." Shaq's voice was steady. "That's easier for them than admitting they did something wrong." She was quiet for a beat. "They keep telling me I'm lucky they're helping me. that most parents wouldn't. Shaq looked out the window. Helping doesn't erase what they did. She swallowed. Do you think they're doing it for me? Shaq's voice dropped. No, they're doing it for themselves. And in that silence, they both knew. She was starting to see it too. By his second year, Shaq's name was everywhere. College sports blogs, local news. One NBA scout even said he was the kind of kid who turns programs around. But Shaq didn't tell anyone. Not his parents, not even his coaches. He kept his head down, worked harder, and wrote letters he never sent. Letters to his mom about how he still remembered her singing while cooking. Letters to his dad about the first time they shot hoops in the driveway. Letters to his sister thanking her for seeing him when he felt invisible. He tucked them away in a shoebox under his bed, not because he forgave them, but because he didn't want to carry the weight anymore. One night, his roommate found him sitting on the floor, box open, hands shaking. You good? Shaq nodded. Yeah, just letting go. Of what? He looked down at the stack of folded paper, of everything they expected me to become, and everything they were too small to imagine I already was. The next day, he dropped the shoebox off at the campus fire pit, watched it burn, and felt lighter than he had in years, because closure doesn't always come from hearing, I'm sorry. Sometimes it comes from saying, I'm done. The crowd was louder than anything he'd ever heard. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted his name from every angle. His jersey, creased with sweat, felt like armor. Shaquille O'Neal had just led his team to the conference championship. MVP. The scouts weren't just watching now. They were circling. But as he stood center court, holding the game ball, all he could think about was the kid who once held an unopened letter in his hands, wondering if dreams still counted when no one helped you reach them. The interviewer pushed a mic toward him. Shaq, who do you want to thank for getting you here tonight? The crowd leaned in. He paused and smiled. My sister, he said. She believed in me before I did. And my coaches, they didn't just train my body. They reminded me I had something worth protecting. The reporter nodded. And your parents? Shaq's smile didn't falter. I want to thank the people who doubted me, he said, because every time they said I couldn't, they helped me prove I already had. The crowd roared, but inside, Shaq felt something quieter, something clean. Not revenge, freedom, because this wasn't just about the scoreboard. This was the moment they all realized. They didn't make him. He made himself. A few months later, his sister received a letter. It wasn't flashy. No return address. Just her name, handwritten in big, confident letters. Inside was an acceptance letter, this time for her. Full scholarship, top-tier program, tuition, housing, books, covered. She blinked, unsure what she was holding. Then, at the bottom, a note paper clipped to the page. You never owed me anything. But now you can walk through the door they tried to close on both of us. S. Her hands trembled. She ran to her phone, dialed. Shaq? Hey, he said, his voice calm. You got it? You did this? I had some help. But yeah, you didn't have to. I wanted to, he said. We lost time. We lost trust. But you never stopped being the reason I kept going. She wiped her eyes, smiling. They still don't get it, she whispered. Mom and Dad. They don't have to, Shaq replied. This isn't about them anymore. Then what is it about? He paused. Giving you what they couldn't give me. A clean start. She held the letter tight to her chest, heart pounding. And for the first time she felt it. Not guilt, not pressure, possibility. Years later they would say he came out of nowhere. But Shaquille O'Neal knew better. He came from silence, from broken promises, from choosing growth over resentment. After signing his first NBA contract, he made a quiet investment. Not in a mansion, not in a sports car. In the one place his parents never thought to look, their company. O'Neal Freight Services had been floundering for years. Unpaid taxes, internal debt, bad leadership. Shaq bought it anonymously through a holding firm, restructured it, hired new managers, paid off what they couldn't, and never said a word. Until now. He showed up at the old office, taller than the doorframe, dressed simply in black. His parents were inside, arguing over invoices and missed deadlines. They looked up as he entered. His father stood. "Shaquille, what are you—" Shaq placed a folder on the desk. "Transfer of ownership," he said. "It's been mine for 3 years." They froze. "Don't worry," he added. "I'm not shutting it down. I'm just putting someone else in charge." "Who?" He smiled. "My sister." His mother's eyes filled with tears. His father sat down, speechless. Shaq turned to leave, pausing only once. "You took my future. Now I'm giving hers back." And with that, he walked out of their story and fully into his own.